Hello everyone, welcome back to Fandom Friendly, the show where we talk about all things fandom. I'm your host, Jorvik. Today we have a lot to talk about. We have some trailers that were released during the Super Bowl last weekend. We also have a new look and teaser trailer for Spider-Man Noir, as well as a modern horror icon coming back to remake one of my favorite horror films of the early thousands. And to cap this episode off, we're going to be talking about Wonder Man. If all this sounds interesting to you, then stick around. Alright, so let's go ahead and get this episode underway. I think I'm going to be making these bi-weekly. Keeping track of a lot of the news that comes out is getting just a little bit harder because, again, it's a big year. There's a lot coming out, especially in the next couple months. But a couple weeks ago, Marvel announced that Marvel and Sony announced that there was not going to be any Spider-Man Brand New Day trailer, nor an Avengers Doomsday trailer for the Super Bowl. And at the time of recording this, it is Valentine's Day. It's February 14th. So far we haven't heard any word about the Brand New Day trailer or a Doomsday trailer. There is rumors that the Brand New Day trailer is supposed to come out in the coming weeks, as well as Doomsday, so I guess we're just kind of on standby for that. I've tried to reach out to some of my contacts that are in Hollywood, and no one really knows. At least the people that I know don't really know, so we're just gonna have to wait until they actually come out. However, we did get a trailer for a Spider-Man show, Spider-Man Noir, which is a show I forgot was even happening. I feel like they announced this years ago and it's just now coming out. As far as I know, I don't think there is a release date. I think the last thing I saw was that it was coming soon. So I'm thinking probably March or at the beginning of like second quarter when it comes to corporate speak. So probably end of March, maybe April. Spider-Man Brand New Day comes out in June or July, I believe. So depending on how this show does, it'll probably come out maybe beginning of summer. But yeah, so it's from Sony. It's going to be on Amazon Prime. The show looks really, really interesting. It is Nicolas Cage who's playing not Peter Parker, but he is playing Ben Reilly, which is also another interesting choice. But I think the main reason for that is because Sony has this weird thing about including Peter Parker in Spider-Man projects that aren't Spider-Man. You know, we saw it with Madam Web specifically. His parents were in that and she was pregnant with him, but they never explicitly named Peter. So I don't know. Sony's weird about that. But he is Ben Reilly, which in the comics is the name of Peter Parker's clone. It's a whole thing. And he's played by Nicolas Cage, who was technically reprising his role from Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse. This is directed by the guys who did that, so I am kind of excited to see where they go. So it is going to be in traditional black and white and in color, so I will most likely watch it in black and white. We did get a few characters in there. We have Felicia Harding, who is this universe's version of Black Cat. Whether she will be Black Cat is a different story. We didn't really get anything, at least from what I could see from the trailer. We did get some hint on some villains. It looks like Electro or version Electro's in there. There's a dude, he's on fire, and I can't really think of who that could be. We also get some really cool looks of Ben from World War One and like kind of an origin story and how he got his powers. Maybe he was experimented on to form a super soldier, and you know, he got spider powers from it. But it is interesting. It looks interesting. I don't know anything about this show, so I don't even know really. I don't have any theories. I don't really have any like knowledge about Spider-Man Noir, just that it takes place in the 30s, which is a cool aesthetic. The suit looks interesting. It does look more handmade than a more like traditional suit. But Spider-Man Noir, he just wears like a black suit and like a trench coat and then the spider mask. Again, we don't know when the show's coming out, but hopefully we'll get like another trailer before then, so we can really like determine like what the show is going to be about. And my theory is that Sony has been waiting on the Brand New Day trailer because they knew this was going to come out, and they probably didn't want to throw in two back-to-back spider projects, because to your average like viewer, you're casual, you probably be really confused about like the two versions of Spider-Man, but I think we're kind of past that. I mean, in my opinion, with like the multiverse saga and specifically Spider-Man No Way Home, where we had Toby back and Andrew back, I think your casual viewers know that there are different Spider-Men and that we really don't have to play with this, well, we can only have one on screen at a time, because that was how it was with Batman for a long time. Speaking of Batman, we did get some news that a lot of people don't like, but to me it doesn't really matter. But Batman Brave and the Bold, James Gunn did announce that the writer for that project is the same woman who wrote The Flash, and that has a lot of people worried, but I'm not worried because there are elements of The Flash that I like. Obviously that movie is not good, but it's not solely on the screenwriter. A film is not good. I mean, obviously they're partially, but a lot of it comes from direction, a lot of it comes from visual effects, it comes from the acting, and so there's a lot of factors that go into why a movie is good and why a movie is bad. I don't think the screenwriter is the sole reason, is what I'm trying to say, that a movie is good or bad, because things change in production. There's tons of writers involved. It's not just one writer. In most cases it is, but most films, especially TV shows, obviously they have like a writer's room, so there are multiple people that can write, and there's also ghostwriters. A lot of people can come in, punch up some scenes or some drafts, and they're not even credited. So there's a lot of people involved with screenwriting. So a lot of people worried. I'm not. It's not really that big of a deal. Really won't see anything until we get to the point where they are doing production and obviously post-production and then eventually a trailer. I don't think that movie will come out until like 2029 anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Next up, I want to talk about some news that came out this past week. Something that I'm actually kind of excited about, and that is that Mike Flanagan wants to do a remake of The Mist, the Stephen King novel. There was an adaptation in the early thousands. I think it was like 2005, 2006. And that's just the right amount of like cosmic horror film. If you haven't seen it, it's about like this town that gets engulfed in like a fog, the mist. And it has like these eldritch horror, like cosmic horror creatures in it. And it just decimates people. I remember the film. It's been a long time since I've seen that version of The Mist. And I just remember them being trapped in a grocery store, them trying to escape, and then there's like the main characters that escape in a car, and then I'm not going to spoil the ending if you haven't seen it yet. It's one of the most iconic endings to a horror movie, if not a movie, just in general. It's also really bleak and really sad, but I am excited for this because Mike Flanagan, I think, is responsible, especially in the last like 5 or 6 years, some of the best horror shows out there. Haunting a Hill House, Haunting of Bly Manor, Midnight Mass are some of my top like horror projects ever, because they're just so good. They showcase like the human emotion with grief and with like religion and with just horror in general. You might also know Mike Flanagan because this year he directed the Clayface movie, which is supposed to come out this year, also supposed to be like a body horror film. So I am also really excited for that. We have not got a trailer for Clayface. I think it's supposed to come out like in October, September, around Halloween time. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's where it's supposed to be. So yeah, so I really like the idea of him tackling The Mist, because I really think we can really get some strong human characters, because I do remember the characters of that movie being pretty weak, because there was a lot of them. But if we have like a small group of people, then I think it'll be a lot better. We can get a lot more feeling in it. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to looking here. To some of the Super Bowl trailers. Not a lot of superhero related projects. I think the only one was Supergirl that I saw. It's good. I mean, I really like the comic that the movie is based off of, The Woman of Tomorrow. I did read it a couple years ago when James Gunn like announced this whole slate. I think I'll reread it again before June or July. When does this movie come out? I think it's June. And then a couple weeks ago, we did get a new look at Jason Momoa as Lobo. And look, he looks fine. I don't really understand the hype for Lobo. I'm gonna be honest. All of the media that I've seen him in, I just don't like. Whether it be some of the animated shows, animated movies. I think think there was a version of him on that show Krypton that was on Sci-Fi many years ago. I've never been a big Lobo fan. Maybe I just haven't read enough like Lobo comics of him in it, but I just find him really annoying and just unnecessary. That's just my take on it. It's really not that serious. But I mean, Jason Momoa looks great as Lobo. I mean, fits the character perfectly. He has that build. He has the hair, you know. So I'm not too worried about it. I think he'll knock it out of the park. So yeah, but in this trailer, we did get a look more of like Krypton, the city being taken up. I don't know why I'm blanking on the city name. But we did also say Kara meeting a puppy, Crypto as a puppy, which I think is really cute. I'm excited to see this version of Krypton. I did like Zack Snyder's version of Krypton, but we just didn't see a lot of it. Hopefully we'll spend a lot of time like with flashbacks and just an establishment of what this version of Krypton is, because it looks more of like a actual like futuristic planet, because you know they're thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of years beyond like what Earth is. We might even see Bradley Cooper reprise his role as Jor-El. That's not confirmed. It's just, you know, Kara is Superman's cousin, so it wouldn't surprise me if they're in this. We might even see the birth of Superman in this, because Krypton looks like it's the time where Krypton is destroyed, so we might even see Superman origin in this film as well as part of the flashback. Cool action scenes. I'm excited to see more when we get another trailer, probably like in April. Another project that's coming out in March, I believe, is one that I'm actually pretty excited for, and it's Project Hail Mary. It's Ryan Gosling, where he is sent into space and they're trying to like jumpstart the sun again, like the type of sci-fi that I really, really love. And in the trailer, we see him interact with like an alien that's like a rock or something similar to a rock, and how they just form this friendship on how to like save their planets. I still don't even know like what this movie is going to be about, because like the trailers do a good job of like showcasing some of the visuals, which I think look pretty good. And correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure this is like one of the first movies where Ryan Gosling is like just by himself playing against something. It looks really good. It looks like fun. It looks pretty heartwarming. It looks like it's going to make me cry, probably, because a lot of like space movies that really encompassing like what is it's like to be like a human and like the human experience and our place in the universe, that you know that really gets me, and that stories that I just really resonate with. But we'll see. It comes out in March, I believe, so next month, and I will most likely go see it. Another trailer we saw, it wasn't on the Super Bowl, but it did come out this week, and that was One Piece. One Piece, obviously huge anime, as well as a huge manga, obviously manga first. My brother is a huge One Piece fan. He's watched the show from the beginning, and he's caught all the way up with the like 1,000 episodes that it has, and he's caught up with the manga. So he's really invested in this. So anything One Piece related, I talked to him about. But it's the live action show. Season 2 is coming out to Netflix soon. I mean, it looks good. I mean, obviously, I've never seen the show. I've never read the manga. I asked my brother what his thoughts were, and he said it looks pretty good. He's excited for it. Now, we had this discussion on one of my other channels about like adaptations, and it was when I talked about Avatar, The Last Airbender, when that live action show came out, and just like how different it is from the source material, and it's just the way that like the media, or the medium, I should say, of, you know, a manga versus a animated TV show versus a live action TV show. You know, there are compromises that have to be made. He's okay with those compromises. Obviously, season's not out yet, so he doesn't know like what's going to be involved, but he's hopeful. So I think a lot of other fans of One Piece are also probably hopeful. All right, I think that's all I wanted to talk about today. Looking at my notes, I was going to do my Avengers Doomsday watch list, but I'm still working on that, and like on exactly what projects I think you should watch. But I think that'll be like its own like separate from the podcast. So and I'm working on that. It should be out next week. So if you don't want to miss that, go ahead and click that like and subscribe button. Let's talk about Wonder Man. So Wonder Man has been out for a couple weeks. They did release all 8 episodes on Disney Plus. I watched all 8 episodes. and like that evening into the night. And I love the show, man. I really, I mean, I was familiar with Wonder Man as like a character. You know, he's been in other media, obviously comics, some TV shows, animated shows. So I was familiar with the character, but I never like read any comics with him. I do know he's part of the West Coast Avengers. There were rumors that he might appear in Vision Quest, but I don't know if that is really viable. It might be, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, this show I think is truly a love letter to Hollywood. You know, as a filmmaker, like I've never lived in LA, like I've never worked in LA. I've worked in other industries around the country. But based off of what I know and my friends who have lived in LA, it really does like give insight onto like the acting world, you know. And you like hear stories all the time about even like prolific actors are like, yeah, you know, I worked at a diner for 3 years, you know, barely making it until I got my big break, you know. And this showcases the showing this like episode 2 where he's trying to do the self tape is really funny, because I've done self tapes before. I'm not like a full actor, but I've done self tapes. I have filmed self tapes, you know, for like my friends. I have been readers for my acting friends who have submitted self tapes, and so it's just really funny to like knowing like how that process works, and the idea of going into like an actual casting call and auditioning that way. I've done that before on both sides, where I've been a casting director for one of my shorts, and then obviously on the other side of it, acting a scene out. It's just really cool to see, and like seeing it in the context of like the MCU. And Yahya Abdul-Mateen just knocks it out of the park. The way that he can, and Sir Ben Kingsley as well. Like them two together, like Kingsley coming back as Trevor is insane. Like considering that when his character was introduced all the way back in Iron Man 3, people hated him, and then he came back in Shang-Chi, and he was great in that, more of a like a secondary comic relief. And the fact that Daniel Destin Cretton, the director of Shang-Chi, who directed, I believe, the first 2 episodes of this, and also like helped get the show made, wanted to bring him back, which I just think it's really, really funny. And they both knock it out of the park. I think it's episode 3 where they go to the director's house after they do the casting call and all that. Episode 3 or episode 5. That scene where he just like messes up and he goes outside and they're looking over the city, and Kingsley comes out there and they're just talking, and they have that little just monologue with each other. And I mean, that's what acting is all about, baby. And it is true. Like, Trevor's character, like, the passion that Kingsley gives to that character, like, the passion he has for acting and, like, for the craft, you know, it really, like, just shows you how acting and, like, in theater, whether it's in theater, film, or TV, just... You can't replicate it. You know, there was that talk last year of, like, that AI actress, Tilly Norwood, and how, like, studios are throwing around the idea of using AI actors, and I think it's disgusting and gross, because I'm against AI, generative AI specifically. This show is a great example on why AI cannot replicate art. You know, like AI couldn't do this show, but that is a separate conversation for a different day. But yeah, just the acting in this is phenomenal. The way that it's shot, phenomenal. And it goes back to, I don't know if I mentioned it in the last episode, but like film and TV are starting to look like film and TV again, specifically movies, and just like the way that they're shot, and they're not have that like Netflix lighting. It's also really colorful. I saw a take where like people were like, yeah, this show is just great, and I'm like, what? Did we even watch the same show? What are you talking about? It's great. Oh, I mean, there is the one episode 4, Doorman, that is in black and white. The rest of the show is pretty colorful. It's just the way that it's graded. I think it looks really good. There's a like film grain on it that gives it that little like softness to it, which is the style that I really like. It's just film people not understanding like the way that these shows are made, who complain the most about the way these shows are made. Anyways, I digress. So great overall show. It does set up a lot going forward, especially with the DODC. Now, we don't know if Simon Williams is a mutant or not. I don't think he's a mutant in the comics. Like I said, I haven't really like read the comics that involve him, so I'm not 100% sure. With the introduction of the X-Men coming soon, especially after Secret Wars, and with like the DODC has been present, and Miss Marvel, it's been present in Spider-Man, it's been present in She-Hulk, and like seeing how they're slowly becoming like a more militant group against enhanced people, I think is really going to pave the way forward for like a mutant registration act. It's going to go into like forming like the Friends of Humanity, which is a anti-mutant civilian militia force, and it's setting up the DODC to be the Department of Damage Control, by the way, to be like this militant force going forward. And we're already starting to see that in the MCU anyway, about like enhanced individuals. We saw it in She-Hulk, and which is why I really like that show, because it showcases what civilian life, like everyday civilian life with superheroes, is, more or less. And then obviously I believe the DODC is coming back in Brand New Day, and they might even show up in Daredevil, especially with like Kingpin, and now he's taken over New York City and has like this anti-vigilante task force, so I think that could play into it as well. But I do know that they are in Brand New Day, there is a character who's supposed to be like the head of the DODC, so, and them going after Spider-Man. And then there's rumors, that Sadie Sink is probably playing like Jean Grey or like another mutant, so she can be involved in that. And we also technically don't know how Peter in the MCU universe got his powers. He also could be a mutant as well, because I know there is precedent in the comics for Peter being a mutant. I know in the 90s Spider-Man show, where they did the crossovers with the 90s X-Men show, they wanted him to join the X-Men because they thought he was a mutant. And even Spider-Man was like, I'm not no dirty mutant, like, so it is interesting. I don't know, but I am excited to see where this goes, because if in Hollywood, that's why I loved episode 4, not only because of the style choices that they did with it, but introducing Doorman, but also introducing presidents to discriminate against enhanced individuals. Like, we're already seeing in the present of the MCU, which is 2027, I believe, there's already discrimination in fields of work. So in Hollywood, if you have powers, you cannot work, which obviously was a subplot of this, because obviously Simon Williams has powers. So it is just very interesting to me, like the seeds that they have planted in this show that are gonna, potentially show up again in Spider-Man, and also in probably not Doomsday, maybe a little bit Secret Wars, but post Doomsday and Secret Wars, where we are finally entering the mutant saga with the introduction of the upcoming X-Men. That's all I have to say about that. But let's talk about his suit. I think his suit looks great. Now, could it be better? Yes. This is just his first iteration of the suit. I would be curious to see how they could update it, because it is the MCUified, where they they give all these costume seams and pockets, and it's like, yeah, because it's live action. What are we talking about here? Are there bad suit designs? Yes, but I think we have moved past bad suit designs to where out of the gate we're just gonna have good suit designs. But that's just my opinion on the matter. I do think he looks great. I truly do. There were rumors that he might appear in Doomsday. If not Doomsday, he could appear in Secret Wars, but I don't know yet. Speaking of Secret Wars, I did mention this the last episode, but I didn't actually bring it up. They're thinking about making Secret Wars into 2 parts, and honestly, I would be okay with that. I mean, me personally, I would actually do Secret Wars as like a trilogy, if not a phase. Like, you can probably get multiple projects out of the Secret Wars storyline. It's the same thing with Secret Invasion. Like, Secret Invasion failed because it was only 6 episodes and it only had a few characters in it. Secret Invasion works in the comics because it was like years in the making, and it was multiple heroes and villains who were Skrulls, which ultimately is why this show failed. Because Secret Invasion could have been its own phase just as a whole. Alas, it wasn't. It was just a 6-episode miniseries that was not great. I think there were some cool concepts in it, but it obviously did not stick the landing. It was not good. But I digress. I'm getting away. But Secret Wars being 2 parts, I think, is a good move, because there are so many characters and the storylines that they could tell. I mean, this could truly be like, because Secret Wars is like the Crisis on Infinite Earths of Marvel, right? Just kind of like how the Crisis on Infinite Earths TV version with the Arrowverse did, that CW did, where they included all of like the TV shows and universes in that. I think the same thing can happen in Secret Wars. So then we can actually get a lot of like, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. properly brought into the MCU. The Runaways, Cloak and Dagger. We could get the multiple Spider-Man. We could get an animated Miles Morales from the Spider-Verse movies. There's a lot that they could do with that. Obviously, with it being live action, there's a lot of actors involved, a lot of budget. I mean, it would be the most expensive movies ever made. I mean, I think Doomsday was already up there with like a minimum $500 million budget, which is insane money to think about. Yeah, but I'm getting off course. It would be a topic for, once we know more, it'll be a topic for a different video. I also I have some friends who are deep in like superhero world, and I want to bring them on and have like a discussion about it. I think it would be very, very interesting and enlightening. Back to Wonder Man. I really hope it gets renewed for season 2. I did see this week that season 2 would only be greenlit if the audience response was positive. And from all of like my film friends, my acting friends, my other friends who are in like the superhero like zeitgeist, they really, really love the show. And I've even talked to people who have never heard of Wonder Man, who are just like casual Marvel viewers who did just like watch it to check it out, and they also really enjoyed it. The only criticism that I got is that he wasn't like an actual superhero, but I don't think that was the point. I think the point was to introduce this side of the MCU solely to set up the precedent that's going to be the DODC turning militia against mutants and other enhanced individuals, while also introducing another character that can be a mutant, and introducing just this weird, like just kind of civilian side of the MCU that we rarely get to see in these type of shows and or movies. The chemistry that he has with Trevor, I think, will really play off with other characters. I'm really bummed that Tatiana Maslany is not going to come back as She-Hulk, because I think her and Simon will get along really well. They just have that banter I think could really work out. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if he shows up in Doomsday. We'll see if he shows up in Secret Wars. If not, hopefully he'll get a season 2 where he can play around with more mutants, maybe include Miss Marvel in there. Before we close out this episode, I just remembered there was a little bit of a Mandalorian Grogu teaser in the Super Bowl. They made it look like it was, and I wanted to talk about it. It's been getting a lot of flack online from what I could see. This movie comes out in May. And they are doing the thing that they did with the Solo movie where we didn't get a full trailer until like 2 months before the movie came out. If you remember back in, what was that, like 2017, I think? 2018? When did that movie come out? But I remember that the first trailer for that movie came out during the Super Bowl of that year, that it was supposed to come out in May. It was really confusing, and that movie didn't do well because they didn't advertise it, which worries me because I really like Solo. I think it's like the 3rd best Star Wars film, and I know that's going to get me grilled. It's just so bizarre to me because The Mandalorian was the biggest Star Wars project pre-pandemic. It really, like at the beginning of that, it really helped us get through some of those days, and I know a lot of people don't like season 3. I actually like season 3, and the reason for that is because of the lore aspect that gets added to the Star Wars universe. I've mentioned it before. Huge lore guy, so like a lot of shows and movies that just focus on the lore of a universe is what I really like and enjoy. It's why I like the Acolyte. It's why I like Ahsoka. But the fact that we got a teaser a few months ago and we didn't really get to see like what that would entail, and then here we are, like 3 months, if not, about 2.5 months before this film's supposed to come out, and we haven't got another full trailer for it. I don't know. It leads me to believe that Disney is not confident in this movie, which is scary because Star Wars is already kind of on the back burner. I mean, we do have Maul, Shadow Lord, coming out in April, I believe. I talked about it in last episode, but that's an animated show. And a lot of people have lost faith in the live action shows. Obviously, Andor is the best thing Star Wars has put out ever. And yes, I do rank it above the original trilogy because it is objectively a better like Star Wars story. The teaser I'm talking about specifically was supposed to mimic The teaser, like the supposed to mimic like old like Budweiser commercials, you know, where they have like the Clydesdales and they're like pulling like a wagon or whatever, you know, like that kind of thing. But it's Mando and Grogu on, you know, a cart, and they're being pulled by Tauntauns, which are only found on Hoth, I believe. So they're on Hoth? Question mark. I have so many questions if that's even. But obviously, that's not really. It's not probably from the film, but it would be interesting. I would love to go back to Hoth. But the thing that people are complaining about is that it looks AI generated. Now, obviously, this Super Bowl was full of AI generated ads, and they just look awful. I don't think it was AI. I've only watched it a couple times. There might be some AI elements in it, but I don't really believe that it's AI just like complicitly. You know what I mean? And the reason I think that is because this is the first time that we've seen like Tauntauns fully CGI. And I mean that because the only time we've seen Tauntauns have been in episode 5, you know, 1980, where they were more or less practical. And I think just the fact that people are used to seeing those creatures as more of like a practical or like claymation style of animation, that seeing them in CGI is kind of jarring because we just haven't seen it. Unless I'm wrong, if you can think of another project where they've been fully CGI, let me know, because I can't think of any right now. But I think that's why people had like a visceral reaction to it. Like, to me, it's kind of like when Return of the Jedi came out back in the 80s, and you had Jabba the Hutt, and Jabba the Hutt was like a practical puppet. And then in 97, 98, when they did the re-release of those movies before the Phantom Menace came out, and then they added the scene in A New Hope where you see Jabba and he's like fully CGI. It was really jarring to people because they're used to seeing him as a practical puppet. I mean, obviously it's a little bit different because CGI was still like new in the late 90s, but you kind of see what I'm talking about. But yeah, so hopefully we'll get a new trailer for Mandalorian and Grogu here pretty soon, because other than that, I just don't have faith in the project. But anyways, guys, that'll be it for this episode. Let me know down in the comments what you think about Wonder Man and the future of the MCU. Are you looking forward to Spider-Man Noir? Like I said, next week I will have my video out of my Avengers Doomsday watch list. It'll be its own separate bonus episode. So, like I said earlier, if you don't want to miss that, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Anyways, guys, my name is Jorvik. I'll see you in the next one.